Tim Petrowich for Dateline Marion, and when I'm sitting in this room next to Marion head football coach Kerry Martin, it can only mean one thing. It means it's time for the high school football season.
It is, and it's not something you and I do unless it's football season.
That's right.
We don't meet in the winter or the summer and talk about football in this office.
Right. We meet in the summer and the winter and talk about other things, but not about the Wildcat football team when it pertains to what's coming up. And, of course, what's coming up is the season opener now just a few days away on Saturday night. And,
right.
Let's talk, first of all, let's talk about the off-season and what the Wildcats have done and some of the things that a lot of people may not know that goes through preparing a football team in the off-season to get ready for the season that's coming up.
Well, we did something a little bit different this year. We had our banquet, of course, after our final game, and we literally took the entire month, the rest of November and all of December off. And I think it was a really good break for the coaches and for the players both. We had a long season, and we had 2 seasons back to back, spring, COVID, and then fall. And we really felt as a staff that we needed a break and our players needed a break. And so we took all of December off. Normally we have a 2-week startup period in December. So we did that, and then we started in January. And the kids lift and do speed work and agility work in PE pretty much every day. But we went ahead and did 2 days after school just to get the team together and talk culture and our values and do the things we do in culture building. And we did that. Then the springtime came and had a large number of kids playing baseball and track, so we still had a group of about 35 kids or so, and we worked them out in the springtime. And then we took a break, took about a month break at the end of school to the start of summer football, and summer football started. I think June 14th was our first day, and we had a really good summer, concluding with a camp the last week of July. So when people hear that, I think if they didn't know that, they understand. This is pretty much a year-round project with a few breaks built in here or there, but it's a big commitment, and I'm just really proud of the fact that we have a lot of kids willing to pay that price, and we had record numbers coming out for football this fall. So I think we have a nice balance between the demands we need to make to compete and also giving the kids time to do other things, play other sports, vacation with their families, and be a kid.
I know a lot of people don't realize this, but 20 years now at Marion.
20 years at Marion, yeah. This is 33 years total, 20 years at Marion, and it's a lot of coaching. It's if I can make myself sound old, I've coached in 5 decades. Obviously, the end of the 80s, but the beginning of the 2020s. But a lot has changed in the game of football, coaching-wise, scheme-wise, strategy-wise, culture-wise. It's a very different coaching job than it was in 1990, my first year.
Now, I know you say this every year when we talk. Every team you have is different. There's a different makeup to every team. And you bring players back from year to year, and I think the great building block, the great starting point for this 2022 version of the Marion Wildcats has to be your quarterback, Evan Nolan.
Certainly, when it comes to replacing a player, the quarterback is the most labor-intensive, both mentally and physically. I mean, the quarterback is very specific to that position, and there's a tremendous amount of mental training and learning because he has to know what every receiver's doing on every pass play, what the running backs are doing, and then these run-pass options that come off of each run play. And there's just a lot. It's a very entailed job, and for the first time since 2015, I have a returning quarterback. So beginning with Jake Schmidt in 16 through Hunter Simmons in the spring of 2021, we've had a senior quarterback every year. The last junior senior quarterback was Isaac Baker in the 14 and 15 season. So it's been a while since I had a returning quarterback. So it's good. And I think with all the new faces at the other skill positions, having Evan back is a big bonus because he's helped them and their adjustment to the varsity level and understanding the system and the routes and the timing. And so, yeah, it's good to have Evan back.
He's as far as Marion High School goes, he is bringing comparisons to Matt Brown because he's going to be challenging some Matt Brown numbers. What's the difference between Evan and Matt?
That's a really great question. I think they have a lot of similarities. First, I think they both have a mobility that people don't realize. Matt was much more mobile than people thought when they first saw him play as a sophomore. By the time he was a senior, he could move around in the pocket really well. He could have ran it more. I chose not to run him. Evan is very fast and very mobile, very agile, great basketball player. So they share that in common. The arm strength is very, very close. Matt had a strong arm maybe earlier on, but Evan's arm strength has really grown through his work ethic. They're both very smart, both great students. The difference, I think Matt is a little more vocal than Evan. Evan's a little more quiet, but I thought it was interesting. I thought yesterday at practice this week at Herrin, Evan was the most vocal I've heard him be as a quarterback, and I don't need my quarterback to be a cheerleader, but he must be a good communicator, and I'm really hearing him grow into that communicator ability. So their personalities are very different, but I think their quarterback skills, being able to throw on the run, scramble and find open receivers, read defenses, and understand the mental part of the game are very similar.
Now, the other thing we have to talk about, people are going to say, well, everybody knows Evan Noli and everybody knows he's coming back. But the reality is you have two returning quarterbacks. You have two different kinds of offenses, and the quarterback that runs that tight formation, ground and pound, I guess, offense, your change of pace, as you call it, and Brody Larson, he's back too.
Yeah. So, that's a great point. And I think it's some things people forget is that Brody's been doing this since his sophomore year, and so Brody is a very effective change of pace quarterback. He's tough runner, throws the play action well, not afraid to stick his nose in there, good with ball fakes, and so it's great having both of them back. And the cool thing is Brody can throw some spread stuff too, and Evan can play in the tight stuff if I need him to. So they're a little bit not ideally interchangeable, but certainly one is more comfortable in the spread, one in the tight, but they can both share a little bit. And I think Brody's going to play some running back in our spread offense this year as well. So we have that option if we need it, and we're going to try to get our best athletes on the field, and that includes getting Brody not just in tight but also in spread.
Well, and I noticed too in the scrimmage last Friday that even in the running the tight set, but a couple times in the spread too, Brody threw some nice balls. I think the knock on him maybe coming in was that he wasn't that good of a thrower, but he threw some really nice balls in the scrimmage.
Threw a nice touchdown pass, didn't he? It was the longest pass of the night, and he had a nice ball to Kyan Cole. So, that's the thing. I think Brody has developed into the kind of passer we need him to be in our tight set, so that if teams want to pack the box or bring their safeties down, we can get some big plays out of the passing game in the tight set. So that's just another option he brings to the table.
Now, you mentioned a touchdown pass too, and we have to start asking this question because Vincent Newsom is no longer here. He's at SIU. You don't have Mason Gooch.
No.
You don't have
Walker Fox.
Jake
Bruce.
You don't have Jake Bruce. All those guys that were catching passes last year, and there were a lot of them that caught passes. They're not here now. So who are the guys that Evan and Brody are possibly going to be throwing to?
It's a great question. The big thing about it is someone asked me, what do you miss most when you graduate linemen or graduate skilled players, so-called skilled players? They're all skilled to me. But and I said it depends on how well you can replace them. So that's the big key is we've lost maybe the four best collective receivers in school history that played at the same time on the same team, and they all graduated. So I got to find four guys, right? So it's a little bit receiver by committee. We've got Jackson Lawrence, who backed up Vince last year. We have Tommy Wiseman, who's a big player in our tight offense at wingback. He's now going to fill a role. Talon Hance has been a tight end. He and Zach Baldy, who played a couple of years ago, missed a year, now is back out, will take the place at our Y position. And then our Z position, we've got Marion Owens, we have Britton Powell, we have Elliot O'Keefe. I mean, we have a lot of people who have grown into these positions over the course of the off-season, the summer, the camp. So I think you're going to see receiver by committee quite a bit. A lot of those guys I just mentioned play defense, so we're going to be funneling fresh bodies in. And Evan is really starting to develop some chemistry with some of these individuals. Bryson Burgess is another guy that returns with some experience catching the ball, and he'll return and play some X receiver also with Jackson Lawrence. So, and some of those guys are playing more than one position, Tim. So it's not an empty cupboard by any means. It's just names people may not know because either they were JV players, they didn't catch a lot of balls last year, or they were guys that didn't play last year who are back out. So we're confident these guys are going to get the job done.
Another guy that's going to be hard to replace, but it always seems like you come up with someone. But Lucas Strum at running back was a big contributor for a couple of years, and the name that sticks out to me is Patrick Walker right away because he's not very big, but he's pretty strong and he's really fast. And I think maybe the biggest thing was he missed quite a bit of time last year with injury. How has he responded to that, and how's he feeling that role?
So far so good. I mean, he's had a really good camp, a really good summer. He had a really good scrimmage Friday, and he and Jordan Beverly will be sharing time in the backfield. A first-year senior, Cooper Thompson, is also going to see some time in the backfield. But yeah, Jordan and Patrick are the two guys that really were the lower level starting running backs the last couple of years, and they're going to get a shot at the varsity time now. So really pleased with how they looked. They both catch the ball well, they both block well, and so far Patrick's injuries have not carried over. He seems to be getting through most of that stuff, and we got our fingers crossed he can stay healthy.
And you mentioned Jordan Beverly, and at the end of the season last year, he put some numbers up, even in key situations, he put some numbers up that really helped the team.
Yeah, he's a big running back. He's a good receiver, as I said. He's one of the bigger bodies we've had in the backfield in a long time. He's in excess of 200 pounds and can run. So there'll be a nice tandem to share back there because they're both going to play some defense. And then we can use Brody Larson, Tommy Wiseman back in the backfield, Cooper Thompson. So we've got as I said, receiver by committee. We also kind of are using running back by committee right now, and I think, as you know, that's more of the tradition of Marion football.
Yeah,
it's a lot of yes. So it's not strange for us to use a lot of different people. We tend to do that. Last year, even with Lucas being the main running back, we used Cole Bundren and Devin Margram and Lucas Lanier, and we used other people. So
you got them right where you want them, don't you?
Yeah. Well, so we just feel more comfortable in that situation, keeping guys fresh, getting lots of guys touches. Then when if you have an injury, you've got some people that are ready to go.
A couple of familiar names on the offensive line to help anchor that part of the game.
Yeah, Eli Vickery and Garrett Berenson return, and I feel like they're going to bring some really solid game experience. Both played the whole season last year, and Garrett played quite a bit as a sophomore in the sophomore season, his sophomore year during COVID. So we got some good experience there, and I think having them where they're at in the line is helping some of the other faces, Holden Hyde and Luke Cooper and some other guys really kind of get their feet wet and start to feel like it'll. We got Sloan Orlovich and some others that haven't played a lot of varsity football but have really grown and I think could surprise people how well they can play.
I want to go to the other side of the ball, and the first thing I think when I'm looking at the team and the defense, and right now there's so many defensive linemen that I don't know if I can name them all. And you've had that luxury now. This is the third season where you've had that luxury of being able to run, 4, 5, 6 different defensive linemen in the game and keep those guys fresh.
Yeah, certainly that's the returning group that we're going to rely on pretty heavily, and Maurice Marvin, Jalen Elliott, Talon Hance. We lost Kanye Gunn in the spring to a knee injury, so he will not be on the team this year, and that's a big loss because he was a very good player. But we've got Levi Tanner, offensive and defensive line. We got Titus Garnett, who's going to see some action. Jaquavion Smith, another player that was here left and now has come back for his senior year. So we feel like we've got some nice depth there to help Toxie Rudd and Jordan Beverly at linebacker. Brody Larson returns at linebacker. Cooper Thompson, Jackson Lawrence, Tommy Wiseman in the secondary, Tanner Wallace. I mean, some of these names people will remember as spot players, but they're all going to play big roles now. But that defensive line has got to play a key role for us.
And it seems like defensively it's easier to get younger players in and get them experience, which helps make that transition when they get to be seniors a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. And I think, as I said, we have guys that maybe didn't start last year, but they did play and they got some valuable experience, and they played behind players that they learned a lot from. And I feel like when I watch a Tommy Wiseman on defense, though he didn't start on defense, man, he plays like a starter. He practices like a starter, like a guy that's got more game experience than he actually does on defense. But I think such a great athlete, good speed, good technique. He and Jackson Lawrence, I would expect, are going to have really solid years in that secondary. And Brody Larson's a great leader. He's able to bring that, I think, to the table and really help get these other guys ready to go.
You're opening up the season at home, always a plus.
Absolutely.
Opening up the season on a Saturday night, so there's not a whole lot of competition. And you're opening up the season against Herrin. So it's a rivalry game on a Saturday night when nobody else is playing. And you already put the atmosphere that Marion normally has on a Friday night against every other game in Southern Illinois. Thinking back to last year, and it was the first game where people really could actually go to a game in a long time. Now you bring it here on a Saturday night, and people are excited about what the Wildcats have done the last few years. This place could be pretty big Saturday.
That's the hope. Yeah. We want to promote our sport and our school, and we feel like we just have such a great atmosphere, and we want our folks to turn that loose on Saturday. And I know Herrin's got great fan support and great football tradition, so I'm sure they'll bring a lot of fans, and it's a good rivalry. It's a healthy rivalry, and the kids know each other, and it's good to finally get back to playing someone that's a local rivalry, a local game instead of a bus ride far, far away like we've taken in the years past. So we're excited about it. I'm excited for our kids to play in front of a big crowd like this, and we had some big games last year. Had a playoff game here week 1 last year. So this is going to be exciting. It's going to be a good night for our kids, our community, our school. In fact, both schools. So it ought to be a good night.
I know Herrin is expecting improvement over last year.
Sure.
From what I've read, initially they had pretty good team speed. They got some players back that played quite a bit last year. I know last year's game was kind of a slow start offensively for you, but once Evan got going in the second half, you wound up putting 40 points up on the board. I know you're going to want to jump on them early, but that rivalry could make that a little more difficult.
Yeah, it always does. Rival games. That's the thing. You look at rivalry games in whatever sport, baseball or college football, pro football. If it's a rivalry game, you can bet. You can kind of throw the statistics and the records out. This is a brand new season, and I know it's his second year as head coach, and I'm sure they'll take a step this year. They do have a lot of returning players. They do have some speed that they maybe didn't have as much last year, and we certainly take them very serious. So it'll be a challenge for us. We have to play well to win. Week 1 oftentimes is less about who you play, but how you play and making sure you don't beat yourself in that first game. So we're focused on trying to make sure we don't make a bunch of mistakes, we execute well, and we'll have to bring our A game. So we're hoping this home crowd will maybe help that a little bit.
So what if someone's coming to watch the Marion Wildcats for the first time, and we know it's a big rivalry game on Saturday night, what do you want people to leave here knowing?
I hope they see a team that is disciplined. They see a football team that plays hard, that plays fast, and plays physical. And those are the essentials in football. When I watch a film and I see a team that tackles and blocks well, talent aside, because coaches can't always help the talent they've got, but if a team tackles well, blocks well, does the fundamentals well, that's the sign it's a good program. And I want people to be able to look at our team and see that they're well coached and see that our staff is is doing the best they can do, and I think we saw some of that on Friday. I thought last Friday's Blue Gold game, our kids kind of elevated in front of the crowd, and I think our speed of our execution was a little better than it has been in practice. So I'm excited to see what they can do, but I hope they see. I hope they can leave here saying that's a good football team.
Well, the game is Saturday night, this coming Saturday at home, 7 o'clock, the Herrin Tigers. That's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.
Right on the buzzer.